on how to supercharge your in-store marketing. For those of you who don't know, I'm Tom Maskill. I'm the Sales and Sustainability Director here at Webmart, and I am thrilled today to have the oracle of all in-store retail marketing knowledge in Dave Lewis joining us. Dave, thanks for being here today.
Well, thank you for inviting me, and it's really great to be on this webinar. So I'm looking forward to it.
Fantastic. So could you just kick off by giving the attendees and the viewers in the future a quick overview as to who you are and what your experience is in this area?
Well, absolutely pleased to do that. And as I say, it's great to be on this webinar. I'm looking forward to sharing some of my knowledge I've gained over nearly 40 years in the retail business. That's crazy. I started as a graduate trainee on the shop floor at Tesco in Shrewsbury, in sort of the Welsh borders. And that was like a Thomas Cook tour, doing all the different departments around that store and doing nights, doing bakery, doing security, doing trolleys, doing everything. So I did that for a few years. Now, I'll talk about one or two little things about that time a little bit later on in this webinar. And then after a few years, I actually moved into the Tesco head office, did a bit of space planning, did some product marketing and produce, actually launched the Tesco ready meals, Indian ready meals ready meal range, which is great fun. And I've got a few little sort of archive material from those days in my little files. But then I moved, the really significant part of my career was actually to join Tesco Personal Finance, which had just launched, which is now the Tesco Bank. That was one of the second, just followed Sainsbury's into going into supermarket banking. And I, amongst other things, I actually, created space in the stores to sell insurance and other banking products through the store channel. This was before the internet, right? Then moved on to a joint venture with O2 with Tesco Mobile. And every time I see a Tesco Mobile ad on the telly, and they've got one now, I go, oh, I was part of that when that started all those years ago. And again, my role in that was developing the store channel to sell mobile phones, but most importantly, selling the Tesco mobile network. So I spent 2 or 3, 4 years doing that. And then since then, I've been lucky enough to work in marketing leadership teams for retailers in Australia and the US. And my role in those teams is to maximize the marketing in the store channel. So I've done, so lucky to have done that in those countries. More recently, I've worked for M&S Foods during their early days of their transformation, their turnaround. And my job was to drive store marketing transformation. And I was lucky enough to be involved in the renewal format for food halls. So I helped create the marketing proposition for those fantastic formats. And if you haven't been to an M&S Food renewal store, get to one. They are great. While many other retailers are sort of sinking to the bottom in terms of store environment, the M&S Food Hall are marvelous stores. Anyway, as I mentioned earlier, I started my career on the shop floor at Tesco Shrewsbury. Now I run my retail marketing consultancy, and I've called it On the Shop Floor. And I'm really here to help retailers and suppliers maximize their return on store marketing spend. Today, I'm really excited to share what I've sort of pulled together 7 marketing fundamentals, a super 7 marketing fundamentals to charge your marketing. So I'll be talking about number 3, stop, look, and listen. Being bold, disruptive, and consistent. Making the complicated simple. Something I call a virtual swag bag over my shoulder. I'll be talking about end-to-end. And finally, it would be very, very naughty if I didn't actually mention the customer word. We've got to talk customer as well. So those are sort of 7 topics. How does that sound, Tom?
That sounds perfect. I mean, we obviously spoke pre-webinar when we were talking about the kind of things that we wanted to cover, and I've got pages and pages of notes of insights and tidbits of information that I've noted down for my own education. So I think this is going to be a really interesting chat. I think let's dive, just I'm conscious of time, and we've got 40 years of experience to get out of you in that time. So let's dive straight in with the first of those marketing fundamentals that you mentioned there. because I think each of these is going to be really applicable to retail marketers who are watching this webinar. So that first one that you mentioned there, the power of three, just go into a little bit more detail about those three things and why it's important for in-store marketing.
Yeah. And Tom, if I've forgotten something and you've got something written down from our previous conversations, just chip in if I forget something.
I'll flag it up, yeah, don't worry.
So the power of three, yeah, this is quite a common sort of term, the power of three. You think about footballers scoring hat tricks, you know. My power of three is slightly different. What I've learned over the years is that the store and commercial teams are the powerhouses in the retail business. You add marketing to that mix and you get the power of three. And I just want to briefly talk about store teams, commercial teams, and how important they are to successfully delivering marketing campaigns or any project that goes into a shop. So let's talk about the store teams first. You know, I'm passionate about being on the shop floor. You can already tell, hopefully, that I am. That's where the action is, in the stores. That's where customers buy your product, where shop floor colleagues put your product and marketing on display, or they don't. So it's vital to spend proper time on the shop floor, helping, filling shelves, putting tickets and point of sale out, talking with colleagues and customers, of course. Understand what's happening, how it happens, why it doesn't happen. In head office, build great relationships with the retail support leadership team, understanding what's on their mind, always being there to help. Getting stores on board is vital to success. You know, the term the retail army, the store army, you know, that's where the majority of a retailer's resource labor is. That's where all the people are. Put it another way, without stores, we'd have no money for marketing. Just wouldn't. You wouldn't have a job. You wouldn't be doing marketing, right? So stores are a vital component, the vital power of three. Then onto the commercial team. You know, it's really simple. Their measure of success is sales and profit. That's how their end of year review rating is decided. It determines what size of bonus they get or don't get. Sales and profit. So I've always spent time building relationships with the commercial teams, the buyers, trying to understand their problems, but also most importantly, their opportunities. How can I help them drive sales and profit? Or put it another way, without the commercial teams, have no money for marketing. So I always build that little triangle in my mind, with, you know, stores, commercial, and me as a bit of an agitator in marketing. Look, I've done lots of things which aren't marketing, and I'll give you a couple of examples today, maybe. But it's just agitate, get stuff done. And to get stuff done in retail, you definitely need stores, commercial, and from my perspective, marketing, because they deliver the proposition from a customer. So
I think it's very easy for people to just narrow their focus into their day-to-day and look at you know, if you're within marketing, you only consider marketing. If you're on the shop floor, you're only considering about what you have to do on the shop floor. It's quite difficult to get that holistic approach that you're describing there, and thinking with your in-store marketing, considering the needs and wants of all those different stakeholders is going to lead to a better implemented campaign, which is a huge issue, is implementation and activation in store. But a more successful campaign overall when you can zoom out a little bit and consider those wider stakeholders.
Yeah, well, yes, exactly. When I sort of manage or lead a project and deliver it, I always get the sign off of retail, because when I walk into a store and for some reason it's not up, and clearly I'll get the root cause of why it's not being activated, but I will say, look, this has been signed off by the retail team. Please tell me why it hasn't been put up. You know, what have I done wrong? Always learning from it, always learning. You know, you might think I'll only build relationships with the commercial and store teams. Of course, I build good relationships with other teams because I need them, right? I need store design. I need finance. I need space planning. Importantly, I can't do anything without suppliers, right? So clearly I need their help to deliver. But I always start with the power of three: stores, commercial, and marketing, because they are the powerhouses. Look, you might have a different power three, no worries. The important thing is to make sure you build those relationships with them, identify who those key powerhouses are, and build those strong relationships. But for me, stores, commercial, and marketing. So that's the power of three. Should we get on to number two?
Yeah, and I think just to summarize that, I think as a kind of a key takeaway is it's when starting a campaign, it could be as simple as writing down those stakeholders at the very top and what you plan to do to engage each of them to ensure that the campaign is created, delivered, and executed successfully. And I get from our perspective, Webmart we do lots of kind of point of sale campaigns for different stores and holiday parks and things around the country. And we come up against the exact same thing: is that if you have two of the three, it's going to fall down at some point. If you don't have that engagement with people on the front line, you can have designed a beautiful campaign and piece of point of sale, but if it isn't activated in the right way, it's a waste of time. So it's a really simple thing to write down on paper. How are you going to engage with each of those stakeholders? So that's a really actionable takeaway, I think. But yes,
I love
let's
that.
move on.
I love that. Number two, this is something I learned all those years ago as a graduate trainee in Tesco Shrewsbury. I was running the checkouts, and I mean literally running the checkouts, answering lights, getting cash out of the safe, doing till techs, literally running up and down those 30 checkouts. One day, the store manager came to the checkouts. In those days, we weren't called Dave Lewis, we were called Mr. Lewis, right? All those years ago. So Mr. Davis, the store manager, came down to the checkouts and said, Mr. Lewis, you're managing the checkouts, not running them. Stop, look, listen. Because when you're running around, you don't see anything. You're just in the task. So I'll give you an example of a recent example of stop, look, and listen. From sort of a store environment, customer experience perspective. I went to a store recently where they were trialing doors on fridges. Now, look, given the high energy prices, it clearly makes total sense to put doors on fridges and freezers, right? I get it totally. But I've always had a problem with fridge and freezer doors from a marketing and customer shopping trip perspective. They're a barrier to purchase, right? They make it much more difficult for customers to find what they want. In all the markets I've worked in, this has always been my view, and it's been backed up with insight. And when I say insight, that's like formal, insight. What I'm talking about here actually is more of an informal, on the shop floor, bit of insight, getting insight on the shop floor at the time. So look, I was in this store, standing at the top of the aisle, and I was looking down, and halfway down, I couldn't see what was merchandised because the doors were obscuring the visibility. So I stopped, looked, and listened. And lo and behold, honestly, this is the honest truth. Within a minute, I heard a customer say, with these doors, I can't find what I want. So I spoke with a couple of colleagues. They loved the doors because it made the store warmer. The fridge is belting out the cold into the store environment, makes it really good. They're all rugged up, as they say in Aussie. But they were frequently being asked by customers to help find a product. And that's a bit of a nuisance because they're trying to fill the shop or do whatever they're doing. Now, look, customer service is vitally important. You have to do it, but you try and there's obvious sort of own goals when you don't do navigation properly. So clearly, the answer is better navigation signage. You can't see the deals, you can't see the offers because the doors are in the way of the shelf edge. From a marketing perspective, I know the answer to that. There's obvious answers which I've implemented in different countries. There's just basic navigation signage as well.
I think that's a lesson that isn't just applicable to kind of in-store retail, but we have a lot with e-commerce brands as well. Is you can spend all day laser focused on we're putting these doors on because it's going to save energy and keep us warm. We know why we're doing this, and it might be several months project and process to go through and get it all done. But unless you stop and you look and you understand how people who've maybe obviously not been on that journey with you engage with that end product and how they navigate through the website, how they navigate through the store naturally without being prompted, then you've got no way of optimizing and improving. And that's a free way. Go in your store, stand still, be quiet, and shut up. See what people are doing. See how people are engaging with
we're all too busy running around. I keep saying the word running around, but we're always so busy. We've got these phones, we've got the laptops, we've got everything. We're always switched on, and it's you have to slow down a bit. I did the 0 to 5K running thing, what's it called?
Couch to 5K, yeah.
Last year, and I like normal. I was sort of go, yeah, come on, let's run. And one evening at the training session, the guy said, slow down to go quicker. And suddenly I slowed down, and I was able to run further. Right? It's a very similar principle. So when I look at a fixture in a shop, I always stop. I stand still and I look at that fixture. I might look from left to right, top to bottom, really looking at the shelf label, looking at the merchandising, look at the product packaging, looking at the layout, looking if the fixture's dirty or clean. How are customers interacting with that fixture? Are they saying anything? Well, a few months back in January, my local Aldi had a refit. They did a really, really good job, actually. They did it within a week. It was amazing. When it opened on first day, the Friday we opened, I went in and I had a look around. And I've always got my ears on, right? I take these earphone things out. Always listening. And one customer said, this is so much more professional now. And another said, what a change. I love it. That was my insight. Right away, I was getting that customers like this store. And it was really, actually, they've done a really good job about it. But
yeah, I think.
Sorry. So stop, look and listen.
Yeah, I think often people like to overcomplicate things. They look at there's some fantastic technology that we use and I know others use in for retail marketing for understanding where people are looking on the shelves and all these kind of things and how to be problem. Yeah. And that's absolutely got a place, but it shouldn't be totally replacing just going in and listening and seeing what people do, because it's cheap, it's free. You can do it today, and you'll gain some insights from it that you didn't have previously.
And you get the emotion, you get the non-verbals, rather than proper customer insight, of course, coverage, but it can be a bit dry. When the insight agencies do sort of little video recordings of customers talking about whatever it is in the shop, that helps. That's much closer to reality. But being on the shop floor, I'll keep repeating it and looking and stuff. Anyway, shall we move on?
Yes, move on, because we're gonna have to rattle through these now.
So number 3 is be bold, be disruptive, be consistent. People on this call or people looking at it later, if we're marketeers, right? We spent hours, days, weeks creating a marketing campaign. We're totally focused on it. We have millions of meetings. We go to and fro between agencies and colleagues. Sometimes we miss deadlines. But that's what our job is, not to miss deadlines. That's what our job is, to create marketing campaigns in the real world. Customers don't see most marketing comms. And if they do they get it? Do they understand the message? Did you know that 89% of advertising isn't seen? Customers too busy, distracted, running around again. They don't stop and look at the marketing we create. They've got other stuff to do. So we need to be in the 11% that is seen. Now, not all that 11% is going to be considered. Half of it will be just sort of discarded. For the other half, there'll be serious consideration. But let's get seen first. Let's get seen. So let's get into that 11%. So once we've been seen by being bold and disruptive, we have to be consistent. It has to be a drumbeat. We have to drive the message home again and again and again. So I'll give you an example. What I'd like you guys to do after this webinar, after you watched it, Google Coles, COLES, down, status quo. That was so Coles is the Aussie supermarket chain I worked for back 10 or so years ago. And there was a major campaign, an everyday low price campaign. And honestly, it was totally nuts. It was totally nuts. We had Status Quo doing TV ads for us. We had Status Quo doing a tour of Aussie eventually. I met two of them in at back of a theatre. Very cheap VIP do. But it's crazy. And in store, we just cardboard hands. If you look at that advert, you'll understand what I'm talking about. Cardboard hands, cardboard guitars. We gave them out to colleagues who danced around with them. We gave them out to customers who went down, 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 down like that with their hands and guitars. We gave out T-shirts. We had in-store radio, self-edge tickets, badges, and more. Talk about disruptive. Talk about bold. Unbelievable. But we kept at it, and it kept reinventing it. We had when we were doing a frozen food down campaign, Status Quo pretended to be on an iceberg or something crazy. In store, I created down hotspots, single-minded, in our bays, with down product and new format, impactful, disruptive down POS solutions. So customers sitting at home seeing this crazy advert with Status Quo or seeing the ad in the newspaper or whatever, when they go into store, there's disruptive POS down the aisle that when they look, a lot of people when they shop, they just stand at the top of the aisle and look down and think, do I need to go down that aisle? My job was to actually create a solution that when you were standing there, you saw that down creative and you sort of linked it between, I've seen that on telly with those Status Quo guys, and I'll go down there and have a look.
And I think that point that you made just at the end there about the consistency piece is not just about being consistent in one channel. It's not just about being consistent in store, but with your wider marketing mix as well, because this is where we've found a lot of brands falling down who work in if you're a retail marketing team who do retail, then you might have TV, you might have offline, you might have digital marketing who operate in their own silos with their own targets, their own budgets. But in order to have a truly impactful campaign, as you say, you've got to be bold and disruptive, but the consistency piece, not just in store but cross-channel. If you have that TV campaign that's built awareness and brand legitimacy and all those great things, then you want the in-store activation. It's got to immediately link to that TV ad for them to make that split-second connection, and that's where a lot of brands I find fall down.
Outside the story, I'm sitting down watching telly in the evening, and ad after ad after ad, and I'm sort of thinking, when's the next half of the football going to start, or should I get another beer, or customers are absolutely flooded with communication. That's why I go back to that 89%. 89% is not even really seen. If it is seen, it's totally forgotten. So I think, you're absolutely right, Tom. You've got to have that consistency across the channels, but realise at the end of the day, we're getting paid to create marketing campaigns. Customers aren't. They're doing their normal life, picking up the kids from school, doing the shopping, doing whatever they have to do, going to the gym, doing a 0 to 5K run, whatever. Just going on. What I would say, the really weird thing, I can't find the picture. I Googled it, but I can't find it. I do distinctly remember in Melbourne, where Coles were based, there was a church on the main road, had a sign outside saying, "God is coming down," and I had a down hand. Honestly, that's the truth. It got into the vernacular of the Aussie of Australia. It was unbelievable, but it was all about that disruptive, consistent boldness. So
let's move on to number 4, because we've covered power of 3, stop, look, listen, be bold, disruptive, and consistent. Number 4.
If I have something on my gravestone, it could well be this one: making the complicated simple. I am really simple. I can't do with complicated. I can't do long books with long paragraphs and small fonts. I just like simple. But this is really important. We've talked about customers with a couple of campaigns. It's really important from colleagues as well. My simple mantra is, if I can do it, Anyone can. Honestly, ask my wife downstairs. Don't ask me to put a picture on a wall because you'll end up with half a dozen drill holes and you only need one, right? I'm terrible at DIY. Do not call me DIY, Dave. It's quite the opposite. But seriously, some may think being complicated is clever. It truly is not. If you want to deliver something, being complicated is not clever. The clever thing is to make the complicated simple. I'll give you an example. In the US, there's something called BOGO, a BOGO. It's a buy one, get one free offer. And that term BOGO is well used. It's massively popular in the southeastern states where I worked in Florida. Now, when I got there, I recognised BOGO as massive in all retailers. When I walked into one of our shops, there was an ugly piece of kit, a square piece of kit at the front of the store, truly awful. They're owned by Frito-Lay, part of PepsiCo. And I go back to the Power Feature and say, I'll talk to the commercial director. I said, oh, these are awful. Can't we do something with these and do a BOGO table? So eventually got that over the line and did it. But I wanted a simple piece of kit that made sure customers couldn't miss our BOGO offer when they entered the store. So I created the BOGO table, big signs. I forget how big it was. I can't remember how big it was. I'd have to get my tape measure out. But chunky, big piece of bold kit with the BOGO messaging created on each side of the table with bold product displays, plus the POS holder in the middle to display the A4 product, not a tiny little ticket, a nice size ticket. But it was simple because the trick was I don't like sending anything into shops that need a screwdriver or anything, any sort. This was a simple push button system that locked only 6 pieces of kit together to create the table. No tools required. It was simple because stores could move it around on wheels, take it to the back room, fill it up, put it back in the best location. Simple, simple, simple. And now I see this kit or versions of it in Malaysia, Hong Kong, and I still see it in the US doing BOGO. But you could change that offer. You know, it could be Thanksgiving, buy one, get one free. Christmas, buy one, get one free. Valentine's, no, maybe not Valentine's Day, buy one, get one free. But you could easily change the, sorry, that just came into my head. But it's easy, it's so simple, so simple. I want to one further word on simple, and this is really about colleague communications. So often I see really wordy store comms. I actually was in store yesterday and the poor store manager had an A4 checklist which was unbelievably mind-bogglingly detailed with small fonts and little pictures. Don't do small font, do big pictures. Yeah. Remember, treat colleagues as if they're part of that 89% mindset. Yeah. Treat colleagues as customers. So simple, easy to understand guidance and instructions will drive much better execution in store. Keep it simple. Keep it simple.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's not just about the messaging being simple, because messaging being simple is obviously crucial. But as you say, if it's not simple, easy to use, it's not going to get put up in the first place, and it's not going to be used properly in store. And it kind of links in with a couple of the other principles we talked about, the power of 3. So this is kind of, like I say, engaging the store colleagues again to ensure that it's simple and easy to use, but also being bold, disruptive, and consistent within the messaging, because you've got to have the BOGO or bog off in the UK, as it might be.
Yes.
That big stand, it's going to be bold and disruptive and bright so that it grabs people's attention. It's there in the first place because it's easy to put up and easy to use from the in-store colleagues. And the messaging is really, really simple. So it's got the position, it's big and it's bold, it's going to grab people's attention. And then when it's got their attention, the messaging is simple enough to easily be able to understand and know exactly what you're getting. And that quite nicely links together a few of those principles we talked about.
I think as I'm sort of talking through these, there are obviously sort of connections to all of these 7. There's a consistency across them all. building on, and to that vein, sort of building on simplicity. Um, some may say creating new stuff is clever. It is, it is, but really, really new innovation is incredibly rare.
Mm.
I think we'd agree the Ford Model T and the iPhone were totally new world-changing innovation. But most things are just an adaptation of an existing thing. Yeah,
Mm.
and it's progress. It's good. This is where my virtual over-the-shoulder swag bag comes in. It's full of what I've done in other markets, what I've seen in other retailers. And remember, not just, I work in grocery retail. I don't know where everybody else works, but look at sectors outside your market. So outside the grocery market for me, see what's going on. And ideas I've been given. I'm like a magpie. I just pick up things everywhere. Either what I see or have seen or what I'm given. When I was working in the US, in Florida, bizarrely, the MD asked me to design some new kit, some new display kit. Remember, I can't put a picture on the wall, right? I just know. But he's asking me, and I think he got frustrated because he wasn't getting anywhere with it. So he comes over today, we'll sort it out. Obviously, use my power of three, got commercial on board, got retail on the board, and added store design, obviously, because they're important as well, if I'm going to design some kit. But I also somehow, I can't remember how I did it, found a supplier in West Virginia, which is like a long way from Florida, to help me. They were absolutely, absolutely brilliant. And they delivered fantastically well. The kit was great and it was all very successful. But the thing I wanted to mention about this virtual swag bag is that the lady, the account manager, said, can I just send you emails with drawings and pictures of stuff of different types of things that we do or I've seen? I said, yeah, too true. Give it to me. I actually have a file on my email when ideas.
Yeah.
I should really call it the magpie file, really.
No, I'm the same. I have the exact same thing. I have a notes tab on my phone, which is just cool stuff. It's got pictures and notes and quotes and all that kind of stuff in, because I agree that invention and brand new stuff from the ether is rare. And being innovative doesn't mean you have to create something brand new. It means you have to take something that's been done well and worked well and evolve it and create iteratively better versions of it. And you can learn a lot by. I like the idea of going into. I think a lot of people will go into competitors and see what they're doing. I don't think many people would go outside of their industry entirely to see what's working in different sectors. Particularly if you've got maybe totally separate products but geared towards a similar audience, and seeing what they're doing to attract the same audience to buy something different. I think you could learn quite a lot from.
I find it fascinating how, just as an aside, just came into my head, how car dealerships or cars are being sold nowadays. I mean, clearly still got the big garages, but more often than not, sometimes with the sort of maybe newer brands, I'm not sure. But you go into a shopping centre. Mm-hmm. You're going into a shopping centre and they've taken over shop space and put a car in there with lovely digital screens, and they've got the different coloured door, colours. The doors are sort of beautifully, not merchandised, displayed, whatever. Absolutely, I think that's fascinating. I really, really do. I think, well, it's something that, from a groceries perspective, the area I work, is there something there? And it wouldn't be that, but like, it's an idea, and how do you develop it? And importantly, what I want to say about this virtual swag bag is, you've got to adapt to the market you're in and or the retail you're working with. A Tesco Extra is very clearly very different to an M&S food hall in terms of from a size perspective, et cetera, et cetera. So stuff I've done elsewhere in the US or Australia, I adapted to fit M&S. But interestingly, go back to the doors on fridges and freezers, I created a solution when I first got to Australia that I've also rolled out in America, and I've rolled it into to M&S, exactly the same piece of kit, because it works. So that virtual swag bag, you don't have to create totally new stuff. Ideas are everywhere, and after a while, you've got quite a bit of experience in your own career. So,
yeah. Fantastic. That takes us to number 6.
Are we doing okay for time, Tom?
We're all good on time. Yes, we're fine.
Are any questions coming up yet?
Not yet, but I will say, if anybody does have any questions that they just want to pop in the Q&A section at the bottom, you've got an opportunity here with what, 20 odd minutes left to get access to 40 years of experience in retail marketing. So don't miss it. Pop any questions in the Q&A section at the bottom, and we'll pick up as we go, or if we've got time at the end. But yes, in the meantime, got through the first 5 of those 7. I've got them all noted down here as well, so I'll share them with the audience when we're done. But moving on to number 6.
Yeah, delivering stuff to a store successfully is a bit like a relay race. You know, you've got a baton and you keep on passing that baton. If you mishandle that baton at the exchange, you can sort of visualize you watching the Olympics or something. The number of times you've seen an athlete drop the baton or go outside that box where they're supposed to exchange the baton, you know, and their race is finished. They can't get over the finish. They're out. They're not going to get anything. They're no medal. It's a little bit like delivering stuff into stores, delivering marketing or anything into a store. It's a relay race. In a sense, you're passing the baton on. And it's really massively important to think about that baton. It's the end-to-end thing. You've got to think end-to-end. How are we going to deliver this? How is it going to be successful? So let's talk about one particular baton exchange in the delivery of a marketing campaign into a store. You've spent weeks creating, briefing, creating, printing, whatever, collating it at the printers, putting it into a truck, putting it into a cardboard box, putting it into a truck, driving it there to the back door, and you've got to the back door. The last few meters, the POS is being delivered to the store at the back door. And that's where it all goes wrong. So often it goes wrong because stores are busy environments. They're full of cages. I was in a store yesterday. And it was full of cages, full of rubbish, full of signs on the wall, full of cardboard boxes, full of equipment, floor cleaners, mops, whatever. That's where your valuable marketing campaign is going to enter the store in that environment. And up till that moment, you've been reasonably in control of it. It's been reasonably well contained within a single printer, perhaps. You know, into a number of layers, okay, but it's still reasonably controlled. You get to the back door, you start to lose control, unfortunately. So there's a couple of things that are really important that I always do is from an end-to-end perspective, is how is this going to get delivered in store? What's it going to look like? That part of the end-to-end baton exchange. So I always use as big a label as I can on the outer of the box. Big font saying what it is, when's the launch date, big yellow fluorescent label so you can't miss it. It stands out like a sore thumb. Making sure the description and all the words we're using are the same as all the other communication that have gone into the store via whatever channels they brief the colleagues. But you've got to make it visible. And then where's it going to go at the back door? Create a storage space for where new POS comes in. Sign it up with a bright yellow fluorescent sign, maybe, until the person responsible for the point of sale delivery, point of sale activation, putting it out, picks it up. And the important thing there is have somebody that's accountable for the point of sale in the store, because too often, one day it'll be, let's say, I'm not going to say, but one day it'll be one person, another day it'll be somebody else, and then there's no consistency. Again, goes back to consistency. But this end-to-end thing, that's just one example of the end-to-end piece.
Yeah, and when you were talking about, I was thinking about some of the other handovers where we've experienced issues with customers in the past. So, for example, having So designers, for example, perhaps who've not designed 3D point of sale before, come in with some incredible designs that when you then put it into a factory and say, we want to make this, they turn around and say, either that's impossible or it's going to be very, very, very expensive. Here's some tweaks to be able to make. And then it goes back to design. So thinking through the full process, but then also, again, end-to-end piece is thinking when that piece of point of sale has come to the end of its life, what happens then?
Yes.
So we're doing kind of a lot of work at the moment in kind of the circular point of sale. So what do we do with that? How can we recycle it and reuse it? Again, how can we extend the life of that piece of point of sale as well? But you can't think those things through unless you literally, draw it out on a piece of paper. It's going to be, briefed in as a project. Then it's going to be going to the creative team, and then it's going to mapping it out exactly where it's going to go and who's accountable for which bit. Is going to help that. But
I love that point that you make about what reusing the point of sale. The end, the sort of the sustainability piece. I'm a big fan of double-sided printing, just to say it. You get twice the use out of that point of sale.
Yeah.
So, I'm not sure I got the timing right, but it can be Mother's Day one side and Easter the other side.
Yeah, I mean that's such a simple way of extending the shelf life of it. I mean we've done things in the past where it's interchangeable. So you've got the main unit, and we're just changing the outside of things. But there's some really lovely. I've got slightly off topic on sustainability. I've seen some really lovely circular case studies in the past where, for example, at a football ground, they take all the empty beer cups afterwards. They then break all of that down and then use that material to make club shirts that they then sell in the club superstore as a way of being truly circular. But just considering these things at the project inception is crucial, because you can't get into halfway through it and it's been produced and then try and retrofit it. That's a lot harder than it is planning it out from the off with that kind of full holistic end-to-end mindset, as you say.
Sometimes it's best to actually think about the end first.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a new way of thinking for a lot of brands, but get that. So relay race. Okay.
Yeah. And then I mentioned at the start, although I've used the customer word a few times, let's focus on the customer for a while. Otherwise, be very naughty not to do so, because at the end of the day, I talked about without commercial, we have no money for marketing. Without stores, we have no money for marketing. Without customers, we won't have a job.
Yeah.
So it's really important. So I'm often asked by colleagues or people, what should I look for when I'm in store? And it's dead simple. Just put your customer eyes in. Just be a customer. We might be graphic designers, marketing managers, social media experts, agency heads of, whatever. We're all customers. We are all customers. I remember a time when we were launching a campaign in the US. It's quite actually a top secret. We didn't want it to leak. And we arranged a walkthrough at 5 a.m. Oh, geez, so imagine we had to set it up before 5 a.m. It was joyous. Anyway, and even more joyous was the MD was going to join us. Fantastic. That was good. It was good. But we wanted to get the final sign off of this top secret activity. So when the MD came into the store, he came in and he immediately went out again and got a trolley. Basically walked the store as though he was a customer doing his shopping. Honestly, I think I'm sure that was the first time I'd actually seen that happen, because normally it's a bit of an entourage when you do a store walk, and it's quite formal. This guy just walked in with a trolley. It's brilliant. Because we go back to, we talk about running around a lot. Most customers have got their heads down, or they've been distracted by a multitude of things: the kids screaming, or the phone buzzing, or the click and collect trolleys in the way in a Tesco, which is something I experienced the other day. Fortunately, they're not always being distracted by our lovely marketing, unfortunately. So you're a customer. Be a customer when you walk into a store. When you're doing a store visit, be a customer. Amongst talking with colleagues and customers, yeah. And also, always think about the best location in the customer journey for your marketing. Where is it most relevant for a customer? When I was in Tesco Bank all those years ago, basically in the very early days of creating that business, the only way we could sell product was through leaflets at the checkout. So we took the confectionery off because there was moves on that anyway, and we put bank leaflets on there. So I created that. The checkout was the right location because customers could pick a leaflet up and take it home. And there's obviously dwell time at checkout as well. So they're standing there, they put the shopping on the belt, looking like, oh, bang, that's interesting. That's a good deal. So checkouts are an amazingly valuable piece of retail space. And into a lot of the stores now, they've got gift cards and whatever else on them. Sometimes you can put marketing like Tesco Bank type of stuff in your, but mainly that's pet insurance and the pet aisle. But just think about the right location for your marketing or your activity. So pet insurance, pet aisle makes sense.
And I guess how would you come to decide what the best location is? Would it be put your customer head on and trying to create a hypothesis of where you think it should be, and then A/B test that to be able to find the best location? Or are there any other methods that you can use to work it out?
Well, the first thing I always do is be a customer. Just think about, I won't go into it now, but the customer journey doesn't start at the front door of a shop, right? It starts with me sitting down thinking, I haven't got any milk, I need to get some milk, or I'm going to do my weekly shop. So the customer journey starts right on the sofa or in the car coming back from work. Multitude of starting points. That's what you got to think. Customers, why is a customer coming in? And then I'm looking for the milk, or the influence, where are the eggs, or where's the sugar? What's that customer journey about? And what's important for the business? What's going to be at the front of store, because that's where every customer goes. They go through the front of the store and they tend to go through the checkout. Although nowadays with scan and shop, they don't necessarily need to go through the main tills. But the starting point is always go into a shop as a customer and think, I'm going to do this activity. If I'm a customer, where would I be most interested in it? Now, I've got a caveat on this. I've got a really big caveat on this. We may think we're the typical customer. Don't be fooled. We're clearly not. We're clearly not the typical customer. We've got a different view on life because of our work, but we multitude of differences. So be careful, but just use common sense and logic, really. But that's why it's always good to be on the shop floor with customers and colleagues.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think that caveat's important, because I always say that the sample size of one is a huge risk to anyone. It's a great starting point, but like you say, let's apply common sense and test things and measure things in order to incrementally improve, rather than just going, this is what I think would suit me best, so therefore it would probably suit everyone else. That's too simplistic, but a strong starting point.
And with a pinch of salt on this one as well, we will spend 80 or 90% at a desk behind a laptop. Our colleagues on the shop, and again, I was on the shop floor yesterday talking to somebody on the self-checkouts in the store, getting some insight into the project I'm working on. Talk to the colleagues, because they're on the shop floor all the time. They're dealing with customers, dealing with issues, dealing with problems, sorting things out. Talk to colleagues. It's really simple. Now, look, again, with a pinch of salt, because one colleague is one colleague, right? But if you go to a number of shops and get a similar feel and a similar bit of feedback, you're starting to build a case there.
Yeah.
Um,
And that actually, I was at a talk yesterday given by the CEO of Richard Sounds, obviously a very successful for retail business, and she was talking about how they they generate most of their ideas for kind of in-store improvements from the people there. And they've kind of created a culture to empower them to be able to make those suggestions and incentivize them to do so. Because exactly as you say, they're the ones there, they're the ones in the know, not the people sat at head office behind a laptop all day. So it's so important to create a method and a culture internally to be able to get those suggestions out of those people, because they in many cases will be able to do a better job than you in their individual
yeah,
spot.
well, M&S have that program. M&S have a program that goes straight to the CEO, Stuart Machin,
Yeah,
and he looks at everyone.
yeah, and it's not really a particularly difficult thing to implement. And I think a lot of businesses will find a lot of their best ideas will come from that.
Yeah.
Just in the interest of time, so anybody's got any questions, pop those in the chat there. But before I kind of go through and summarize those 7 points, Dave, is there anything else that you would like to add that we've not covered so far?
Oh, I could add loads and loads of things.
I'll caveat that within the next couple of minutes.
No, I would say this, from a retail perspective, the most important thing is to get out, and see what's happening on the keep your feet on the shop floor of anywhere. And this wouldn't just be from a retailer perspective. You know, if I'm running a factory, I'd want to be, see what's happening in the production line, right? I'd want to be at the back door or dispatch or whatever. So getting where the action is the overriding bit of advice I give to you all. Yeah, that's the main.
And like you say, not just applicable to retail.
No,
E-commerce being the obvious other example of where that understanding how your customer journey, mapping that out and how you can improve it incrementally.
We did some insight a while ago, actually in a customer's house, in a customer's kitchen, and we looked at what's in their fridge and what's in their freezer and what they're having for tea tonight.
Yeah.
Incredibly valuable sort of insight into how.
With permission, I assume you've not just knocked on somebody's door.
No, we just sort of.
What's in your fridge?
Yeah, no, we did prearrange it.
That's fine. Just to summarise then, because I'm conscious of time, so we've been through those 7 key points that you've come up with. So we had the first point, the power of 3. So looking at store, commercial, and marketing as the kind of key stakeholders that need to be engaged for the successful delivery and implementation of any campaign. The second, stop, look, and listen and understand what's happening naturally in store. It's cheap. It can be done today. Go in store, stand still, stay quiet, and see how customers are engaging with the campaigns that you're running. Number 3, be bold, disruptive, and consistent. So we talked about how 89% of marketing isn't seen, and in order to be in that 11%, those 3 principles of bold, disruptive, and consistent are crucial. The fourth, and in my mind of this list, probably one of the most difficult but most impactful, making the complicated simple. Lots of businesses have quite complicated offerings, but ensuring that it can be communicated concisely and clearly is crucial. And not only messaging being simple, but also the point of sale and the in-store and marketing itself being simple to put up, to maintain, and to ensure it has the impact that we as marketers want it to have. Number 5, talked about the virtual swag bag and walking around. You mentioned you've got your email folder. I've got my notes tab, the Magpie files of good bits of marketing that we see, not just within our industry with our competitors, but also in other sectors, possibly with a similar target audience, but any other sectors, other countries that you mentioned that you've seen good ideas have been able to replicate across different countries and different sectors, but filling your virtual swag bag with ideas and inspiration to take and improve upon. Number 6, the relay race of getting a campaign out there. So understanding where all the areas are going to have to be handed over from kind of creative and maybe cardboard engineering or whatever it may be, through to installation, collection, and recycling. Mapping that journey out, understanding who's accountable at which stage to ensure it consistently gets delivered and has the effects that we want it to have. And number 7, finally, customer focus. Go into your retail stores as a customer, understand what the best location for your marketing is, understand that the customer journey starts way before they come into the store, and consider that with where you place your marketing. Is that a fair summary, Dave?
I think you've done an amazing job and added some added value into that. That's brilliant.
Fab. Okay. Well, in which case, just conscious of time, we've not had any questions through, although as ever, I'm sure we'll be open after this if any crop up to answer any questions. So that just leaves me again to thank you, Dave, for your time. I've got a load of learned a load of things, and I'm sure the audience have as well. Thank you very much for being part of it.
Well, it's really great, and thanks for inviting me to do this, Tom. It's a real pleasure working with you and the WebMart team, and I hope everybody found at least one nugget of useful information from the last hour or so. Thanks
Fantastic.
again.
Lovely. Thank you all, and we shall see you in the next one.